working to find that middle ground. And this is where you can ask them about their differentiators, can usually surface some of that information about where is the middle ground of like creative to like what you're actually selling. Another one here that can kind of be a little more of a no-brainer type of deal is just deliverables. Sometimes up front, you can be told, hey, we need this, this, and this. And you're like, okay, good, sounds great. We're all aligned. And then, you know, midway through, things end up changing. So any questions that you can ask up front on deliverables and just aligning on what specific things are you sending, the better. A lot of times where I can see this get difficult in projects is more on the small business side of things. When teams don't have a lot of internal knowledge in the things that they're working on, things can get a little squirrely. One specific example I would have here is I've worked with a few friends who had started a distillate company up in Massachusetts because they just legalized. And these guys are like super knowledgeable in the product side, but when it comes to design, they have no background, nor should they have ever had any background in how file types work and how to integrate with like, you know, Slack or any of these things that you're using to communicate. So when I'm working with them, I have to do a lot of work up front of saying, here's where I would send a PDF versus a PNG versus something like this. And like, you know, here's a situation where I'm going to upload a file into Google Drive for you. Here's how it works. A lot of times it's just explaining things that maybe feel like they're simple to you, but to the person on the other end, if you're not aligned on what that actually is and what they're getting, there can be a disconnect at the end, and that's where it can lead to things or relationships getting a little squirrely. So just making sure that you know as you're working through a lot of this stuff, like what is their level of technological understanding? Have they dealt with these types of things in the past? And just making sure that you both know exactly what's happening as you're going into it. Piggybacking off of that, there's the other questions that I'll ask are usually around external resources and partners. Where I've seen this get a little wonky in the past as well is, let's say I'm working with a small team and they have another agency of some type that they're working through for something. And I think this can kind of happen or works in terms of this experience that I'm mentioning about the booth setup stuff. There's going to be someone on the other end that has to deal with these files, and they're going to be the ones actually manufacturing this stuff. And so if you don't have a direct line of communication with those people, or if you don't even know that they exist, that's another pain point. Because if I'm delivering certain things to a client and then they're immediately taking those and sending it off to go get created, but there's a difficulty in that process, that's now something that you as a designer are going to have to work, or creative are going to have to work through. So this is another question that I'll bring up is like, hey, in my process with this, when we're handing off files or whatever it is, are there other external resources that you used, or partners or agencies or whatever, that'll either have a say in what's happening for approvals, or will get some sort of